Hi everyone. So this is lesson 4.3, and the objective of this lesson is to learn to find appropriate measures of central tendency. So the handout that you were given starts off with these 4 vocabulary words, and what I'd like you to do is just take a minute, pause the video, and go look these up. You can probably find them on page 184 of your math book. So pause the video at this time and then come on back. So, in addition to the definitions that you should have gathered for these words, some ways I just want to give you some tips on how to remember these. And so, one thing you can write about mean is that it's mean. It's something that's going to make you work harder to find it. So, mean makes you work harder to find it. It's mean. Makes you work harder. It is mean. Median is sometimes referred to as, like if you're driving on I-5, there's a grassy part that's in between the lanes going north and lanes going south, and they call that the median. So a median can sometimes be referred to as like a grass or a concrete barrier that is in the middle of the 2 lanes. Mode is often referred to as most often. And then lastly, outlier is something that actually stands out. It's typically a very high number or a very low number, but it's different than the set of data that you're working with. Stands out. Okay, so let's work with some of these. So the first thing I'm going to give you is a scenario about maybe some kids going trick-or-treating and getting some Halloween candy. So for example, if we actually had 3 kids, and they decided that they're going to go trick-or-treating, and they said, all right, so look, we're all going to go out to different neighborhoods, we're going to collect some candy, and we're going to come on back, and we're going to divide it equally among everyone in our group. So one kid goes out and he collects 10 pieces of candy from one neighborhood, and another kid collects 6 pieces of candy, and then a third kid collects 8 pieces of candy. And so when they all come back together, what they decide to do is they put all of these things together. They add up all of their parts here, and then they divide it from that. So if they add up all their parts, they end up getting 24 pieces. And so from that, they said, okay, well, we need to divide this evenly. And so they end up dividing this by the 3 kids that are there. So when they add all three up and they divide it by 3, that each kid will get 8 pieces of candy. 8 pieces of candy. And so what they've actually done is by having this strategy is they have found the mean of this data that they have collected. Okay. So let's take a peek at the example that's on your worksheet. And so the data that they have here is 16, 25, 31, 14, 14, and 18. And you could think about it the same way. That kids were collecting a whole bunch of candy, and this is what they gathered, and they put them in one big pile together, and then from that they divided among themselves equally. So what we would have to do is take each of these pieces and sum them up. We have to find the total of all of these. Okay, pause the video, take a minute, get that figured out, and then come on back. Okay, so the total that you should have come up with is 118. So the total piece of candy that the kids gathered were 118. So now they need to divide them up equally among how many kids there were. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 kids. So they would take that 118 and they would take that number and then divide it by 6, the number of kids that there were. So the book asks you to estimate, and so when we're going to estimate this, one of the things that I would do is I'm going to make this this top number, the numerator, an easier number to work with. And so I'm going to say, I don't know, it's about 120. 120 is an easy number when dividing by 6. So 120 divided by 6 ends up being 20 pieces of candy that each kid would get. Okay, if you were able to